Hey everybody, my name is Joe. Welcome to my channel. So in the last video, we went through all the parts that come with the Laser Master 30. In this video, we'll go through how to assemble the frame and wire all the components together. So I would go through the manual. I read through the manual online and it was a little confusing, but honestly I put it together once already. And it's super simple, and I think I could do a lot better without using the manual. I think it'd confuse everybody at home. So the first step that we're going to do is take the rear assembly and the two side rails. So we'll have the rear assembly, two side rails, and two screws. Now the tools that you're going to need to assemble the whole laser machine, you'll need you'll need 3 hex screws or hex drivers, 3mm, a 2mm, and a 2.5mm. Now they give you your own tool. They give you the tools to put it together in the box, but I like using mine. I like my tools better, so I can use them with one hand, unlike the keys that they give you with the machine. You'll need some flush cut snips. That'll be later to cut the zip ties. I have a pair of tweezers just in case, you never know. Loctite, so I'll be Loctiting all the screws so they don't back out down the road. So this is Loctite 2480, so 248, and it's a stick, so I like it a lot better. It's more control over where you put it. I have some isopropyl alcohol, so I'll clean the screws before I put the Loctite on, and then I have a roll of tape, and I'll show you why I have that in a second. So without any more time or wasting time, let's jump into it. So you'll have your rear assembly, and the first one you're going to put on is your left rail. So it's easily identified. So on the rails themselves, they have these little hooks at the front where the idler assembly is going to fit later on, but these will identify left and right. So you want the left one. So we'll take the left rail, we'll turn it around so there's two sides, the straight edge and then this curved portion of the rail, and that's going to go on the outside. And what we're going to do is take the Y motor wire and we're going to feed it through the inside. So we feed it through really easily, fits in there and fits back. So there's a little, it's a hollow portion of the rail, really the only spot it can go in. And then what we're going to do is it's cut out so it's nice. You know exactly where it goes. It's going to snap together. So you can see here where it just snaps right there, snaps together. And one thing I didn't mention yet is why I have this green tape. So you have this switch underneath here, and you don't want to damage the switch. So I have this roll of tape where I can kind of set that in there, and now I'm not going to damage the switch. Sorry. So I'll take some isopropyl alcohol, clean one of the screws, get my Loctite, just dab it in a little bit. And these screws here are 3mm. So go ahead and fit it in to attach the side frame or side rail, and then go ahead and screw that together. Now I'm going to leave it a little loose so I can square it up, but with the cutout, like where they join together, you know, they're gonna seat properly into each other. So the next one we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So let me go ahead and clean this up and get this attached. And there you have it. So pretty much almost done building the frame. Alright, so let's get set up for the next step. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to attach both the gantry, the front assembly, and the belts and their components. So the screws that we're going to use are the remaining screws that are in the kit. So we have 2 more M4 screws, 2 M3 screws, 2 little set screws. You can take a look at those. That's in the shot there. And then 2 idler assemblies. So the idler assembly has, you know, 1 screw with a long shoulder on it, or a bolt with a shoulder on it, a bearing where the belt rides in, and a washer and a lock nut. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and slide our gantry on. So on mine, I have a sticker on the right side. So remember, the left side is where the cable comes out of. So you want that sticker on the right side. And then it just slides over right between. Let me see if I can get a shot of this here. So it just fits right on top. So where there'll be 2 rollers on the top and 2 rollers on the bottom. And that just slides down. Go ahead and just slide that to the back. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and attach these 2 M3 screws. They fit in the side of the frame. So I'll show you where those go. So there's a screw hole on the inside of both side rails. So we're gonna go ahead and screw those into those holes. Now you don't have to screw it down too tight. You don't want to risk stripping the threads. And those are going to be the limit for the y-axis. So when it homes, it's going to bump against these screws. Instead of using a limit switch, it'll use these screws to know where 0 is for the y-axis. And that's because they're using different stepper motors or stepper drivers that they have sensorless homing on them. So a lot of the new 3D printers and stuff like that, they use sensorless homing. So it just bumps against something, and the stepper driver, you know, senses that it's pushing against something, and it'll know that that's 0. So from here, we can go ahead and attach our front assembly. So on this side, where the wire comes out, there's a little notch on the frame itself, or on the rail itself, and make sure that the wire is sitting in that notch. You don't want to pinch that wire. So go ahead and just lean this up here like that. That's how it goes. So let me clean these 2 screws, and so one goes on each side. Let me go ahead and clean these and put those in. Okay, so those are attached now. The front assembly is attached to the rails. Now I'll go ahead and tighten those 4 screws up. What I'm going to do is I'll loosen it a little bit, and I'll feel with my fingers where both the rail, the side rail, and the front assembly and the rear assembly, where they're flush with each other, so I don't feel any bump here. It's just a smooth transition from one assembly to the next. And I'll do that for all sides. Alright, so for the next part, we're going to put in these idler assembly in the frame. So where I showed you the little hook on the front that had the indicator of left and right on it, that's where these will fit in. So if you're looking at the idler assembly, you know, it has the nut and the washer and then the bearing. So the nut will go on the outside and the washer will go on the inside along with the rest of that assembly. So you'll see on that hook where the washer and the nut will fit in. So they'll just slide in. You can't really mess this up. So just know that when you sit it in, the hook is going to sit between the nut and the washer. So I'll go ahead and put both of those in on each side. Okay, so now that we have the idler assemblies in there, we're gonna go ahead and put the set screws in. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean those, and on the hook, where that hook is, there's a little hole in the back, a little screw hole in the back, and that's where these will fit in. They're a 2mm screw or head on it, and then you just fit those in there and just get it started in there. Don't tighten it down yet. Okay, so those are in, and just barely put them in. Don't put them all the way in because it's going to be difficult to put the belt on. That's next. So there's 2 belts. One goes on each side. If you're looking down at the rear assembly, there's a little opening at the back. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to hold the belt like this with the gear, the little teeth on the inside, and I'm going to fit it in. So I'm going to fit it inside at an angle and hook around the gear that's in there, the pulley. So I'll feed it in all the way, and then it's kind of, you have to feel it and just get it around there and hook it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on both sides. Alright, so both of those belts are in now. It's a little tricky, but you'll get it. Just feed it in and just keep trying to hook it around that gear. If you need a little flashlight, you can use that. So now what we're going to do is take the belts and hold them and fit them over the little front idler gear here, or the idler pulley. So it's a little kind of a pain, but it's not that bad. So just fit it over on each side. So let me show you what it looks like here. So you can see your washer there. Well, it's hard to see, but so you could see your belt will go over that gear right there, and it's still loose. So the next step will tighten that up. So for the next step, we're going to go ahead and tighten these belts up. So what we're going to do is take, it's a 3mm, we're going to pull it back and pull that idler assembly back a little and just tighten it so that it's a little snug on there. And then, not too much, just make sure you can, it's not super loose, but you could still, it still can move back and forth. And then we're going to use that set screw that we put in, and that's going to be what tightens the belt. If you look on the side of that hook, there's a little image, and it tells you recommended, like, the tension. So you want the nut to be center with the image of the nut on the side of the hook. And do that on the other side as well. The next part, we're going to get our gantry even perpendicular to the side frame. So what we're going to do is push it all the way to the back where it bumps up against the frame, and then we'll go ahead and slide in the belt into the gantry. So if you look on the side of the gantry, there's a little slot there that has a couple teeth that match up to the teeth of the belt. So we're going to go ahead and slide that in to on both sides to the belt into the gantry. So you can see right there where the belt fits in. So with the belt attached to the gantry, we're going to go ahead and take our 3mm and tighten the idler assembly down all the way. You don't have to torque it down, just make sure it's tight. And we'll do that on both sides. Now you have a complete frame. So we'll go ahead and wire it up, and it should be good to go. Okay, so to wire it up, we're going to go ahead and fit the Y-axis wire into the frame. It's labeled, and that just fits in, snaps in. Or pressure fit. It's not. There's no clip on it. And then we'll be using our main harness and then our laser harness later. So what we're going to do now is take our main harness. We're going to attach it to the main harness port on the back of the front assembly. And I'm going to flip this over. So this wire harness, it'll go on the outside. So it'll go from the connector to the outside and over, so over the top, like that. Just make sure it's wired that way. We'll pull our gantry forward, and then here you'll be able to see your Y-axis motor, and you can go ahead and attach that. This is for the laser with the 5-pin connector. We'll plug that into the L harness or the L connector. And we'll go ahead and attach. So the wiring is pretty much done except for connecting to the laser. Pretty simple. On the back of the gantry, there's one mount for the wire harness, so I'll attach that. I'll push it up to where the insulation is within this, make it a little bit over this way, where the insulation, the thicker part of the wire, is within this mount or bracket here, and then you feed a zip tie through and zip tie that. So grab some zip ties. All right, so now that we have that completed or attached, there's 3 holes on the back of the gantry, and that's where the rest of our harness to the laser is going to be attached to, so it doesn't get in the way. And that'll be attached with more zip ties. Okay, so with that it's attached, or with that cable attached, so one trick, or not really trick, just one thing to know is your the belt for the x-axis is hidden underneath this like this portion here, and when you feed the zip ties through, just make sure you don't wrap around the belt and you know, have that secured as well. And then the back where kind of this bunch of connectors are, I zip tied around them, but I didn't zip tie them extremely tight because I don't want to put a lot of pressure and possibly cause something to cut the wire. So I just kind of put it tight, but not extremely tight. And then the last part is the laser module. So we have the laser module. It has 3 parts to it. So the actual module, the air assist, so that just screws in the bottom. So there's the air assist nozzle, and then the laser shield that has, it has 1 large tab and 1 small tab, and it fits, you'll see it at the bottom where they snap into, so it just snaps right together. And then we also need the thumb screw. So that little thumb screw will fit, there's a little hole in the side of the motor mount, or the laser mount. So right there. And then that assembly just fits on there, and then you can use a thumb screw to tighten it down, and then just fits together. And that is pretty much complete. I mean, that is complete. So really didn't take that long. So some things that I noticed out of the box, just make sure your switch is on the Y motor in the back. And then when mine came, the key was set to off, was on the off position, so I had to use the key to turn it on. And then the e-stop here, it's a twist button, so when you press it, it locks, and then when you twist it, it unlocks. So it's kind of like, this is off and this is on, so just make sure that's twisted and in the up position. Oh, one last thing is the Wi-Fi antenna. So it's just a little antenna, just put it on the side and good to go. I think that's all the parts. So super simple to put together. We'll go ahead and boot it up now and see it in action. So I went ahead and plugged in the 24-volt power supply, and go ahead and plug it in. Make sure, so mine's already, my switch is in the on position there. My e-stop is open or in the up position, and all my connectors are secured and seated properly. Now I'm gonna go ahead and power it on for the first time. I powered it on before just to make sure it works, but so what you do is you're gonna hold the power button in. It's white flashing and then turns red. You can let go, beeps at you and starts homing. So like what I said, there's those 2 screws at the front that we put in earlier. It's gonna bump against those, So and there you have it. So in the next video, I'll go ahead and show you how to connect it to the PC, set up light burn, and make a first burn with the machine. So hope you found this useful. Yeah, I'd appreciate if you you know, leave some comments down below. I always love feedback. You know, make sure you subscribe to see the next couple videos. I'll have a series of videos covering this machine. So yeah, tune into that, and we'll see you next time. Appreciate it. Thanks.